What happens when a successful CEO decides to leave his comfortable office and step into the heart of his company? What happens when he discovers a truth hidden in plain sight? Let's dive into the story of Mark Hudson, a self-made entrepreneur with a heart that once burned with passion for his employees, but who had unknowingly drifted away from the reality they faced every day. Mark Hudson was the founder and CEO of a thriving logistics company, Swift Trans Solutions. Over a decade ago, he started the company with just a handful of trucks and a small team of determined workers. His dream was simple: to build a business where employees felt valued, safe, and proud to work. But as the years passed, the company grew rapidly. Swift Trans expanded across the country, profits soared, and Mark became busier than ever with board meetings, partnerships, and ambitious expansion plans. Slowly, the personal connection he once had with his workers faded. He assumed everything was running smoothly, just as his managers always reported. One evening, Mark sat in his expansive office overlooking the city skyline. A random social media post caught his attention. It was a photo of a warehouse worker, a young man sitting on a worn-out crate with the caption, "Some days you just don't feel safe anymore." Something about the image lingered in Mark's mind. He felt a strange mix of guilt and curiosity. That same night, Mark's driver, Larry, a man who had worked for him for years, struck up a conversation. Larry shared how his cousin, Tyler, worked in one of Swift Trans's older warehouses in a nearby town. Larry mentioned that Tyler often came home exhausted and worried about conditions at work. Mark was stunned. "Worried about what?" he asked. "Boss, Tyler says it's not like it used to be. Things are rough, they're short-staffed, machines don't get fixed quickly, and morale is just low. He won't talk to management because he's scared they'll fire him." Mark's heart sank. How could this happen in his company? He decided then and there to see for himself. But he wanted the truth, not a polished version from his managers. So with Larry's help, Mark devised a plan. He would go undercover. The next morning, Mark dressed in a simple flannel shirt, jeans, and steel-toe boots. With a fake ID badge and a borrowed truck, he arrived at the warehouse where Tyler worked. He introduced himself as Mike, a new hire sent to help out temporarily. From the moment he stepped inside, Mark was overwhelmed. The warehouse was nothing like he had imagined. The air was heavy with dust, forklifts screeched as they moved dangerously close to workers, and dim, flickering lights barely illuminated the massive space. Broken pallets were stacked haphazardly in corners, and the safety signs on the walls were faded and ignored. Mark was assigned to work alongside Tyler. Tyler, a young man in his mid-20s with tired eyes but a polite smile, welcomed him. "You'll get used to the noise," Tyler said, pointing to the clattering conveyor belts. "Just watch your step. They haven't fixed those floor panels in weeks." Mark noticed everything: the belts that stopped and started unpredictably, the rusting equipment, and workers lifting heavy loads without proper support. The conditions were not just poor, they were dangerous. During lunch break, Mark sat with Tyler and a few other workers. Slowly, their stories began to unfold. Tyler revealed that he had nearly been injured last week when a forklift malfunctioned. Another worker, Joe, shared how he slipped on an oil spill that had been ignored for days. "Why don't you report these things?" Mark asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "Management doesn't care," Tyler replied bitterly. "They say they'll fix things, but nothing changes. And if you push too hard, they'll find a reason to let you go." Mark's stomach churned. He realized that while his office had been filled with graphs and glowing reports, the reality on the ground was grim. It wasn't negligence alone, it was fear. His workers didn't feel safe to speak up. That evening, Mark stayed late, pretending to clean up, and overheard a manager, Carl, berating one of the workers. "If you can't keep up, don't bother coming back tomorrow," Carl barked. Mark clenched his fists. This wasn't the company he built. The following day, Mark discovered an old storeroom filled with damaged equipment. In the corner was a binder labeled "Maintenance Reports Urgent." Flipping through it, he found pages of ignored safety violations, some dating back months. One report detailed a forklift accident that had injured a worker's leg, yet no action had been taken. Mark couldn't hold back any longer. He confronted Carl in private. Why hasn't any of this been addressed? Carl, not knowing Mark's true identity, shrugged. Head office keeps cutting budgets. They don't care, so why should I? The words hit Mark like a ton of bricks. He had trusted his upper management to maintain his vision, but somewhere along the way, that trust had been broken. At the end of the week, Mark gathered the warehouse staff for a meeting. This time, he revealed his true identity. The room fell silent. Tyler's jaw dropped, and Carl turned pale. I came here because I needed to see the truth, Mark began. His voice wavered with emotion. What I've seen and heard has shaken me to my core. This isn't the company I dreamed of building. I failed you by not being here to listen and to see what you go through. Mark's sincerity struck a chord. Workers began sharing their grievances openly, and for the first time, they felt heard. Tyler stood up and said, If you're really here to help, we want to believe you, but we've heard promises before. True to his word, Mark took immediate action. He fired Carl and brought in a new management team committed to safety and employee well-being. The warehouse was shut down temporarily for repairs, and workers were compensated during the closure. Mark personally oversaw the changes, from fixing equipment to installing proper lighting and safety measures. When the warehouse reopened, it was unrecognizable. Workers returned with a renewed sense of pride, and Tyler, now promoted to team lead, greeted Mark with a grateful handshake. Thank you for listening, Tyler said. Mark smiled, his voice steady. Thank you for showing me what I needed to see. And so, Mark Hudson learned that a company isn't just built on profits or expansion, it's built on the lives of the people who keep it running. That's the story, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a pleasure sharing it with you all. Don't forget to comment below and let me know where you're watching from. It's always fun to see the global reach of these stories. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button for more amazing stories, tips, and tricks. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. If you'd like to show some extra love, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks.